Yo, Async Book Club. I'm going to be talking today, right now, about The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Um, this book is not only super famous classic, but to me, as a pharmacist, it was very relevant for drug addiction. And sometimes fiction does this thing that helps you understand the real world in a way that a textbook cannot. And I definitely, even though I went through pharmacy school and learned a lot about drug addiction, and then as a pharmacist saw it firsthand, this book still provided this like great insight into drug addiction, and that's the beautiful thing about books, but in particular fiction. So let's just start with like a brief synopsis. So there's like a dual personality theme going on in this book, as the story revolves around Dr. Henry Jekyll, who is a respected London scientist, and he develops this potion uh, to separate his good and evil personalities, um, which is kind of cool concept in and of itself because, like, in my opinion, we're all a mix of good and bad. So this was kind of a cool thing that the writer Robert Louis Stevenson did to address kind of that. Um, the transformation with the potion allowed Dr. Henry Jekyll to live out his darker impulses through an alternate persona, Mr. Edward Hyde. So that was like this dark, like Dr. Henry Jekyll was this like respected, good London scientist, good, and the potion allowed him to separate that out into this evil Mr. Edward Hyde, this grotesque person. Um, Initially, um, Dr. Jekyll was able to control the transformations using the potion. However, as time progressed, he became increasingly a prisoner of the persona of Mr. Hyde, and it grew more dominant and uncontrollable. And this happened in the form of crimes and conflict. So Mr. Hyde was involved in several criminal activities, including a brutal murder. And as Hyde's control strengthened, Jekyll's moral dilemma basically deepened. And finally, there's a tragic resolution, unfortunately, where Jekyll loses control over his transformations into Hyde, and it's just and dies. So it it's I'll talk about the relation to drug addiction after I give you some historical context. So this book was published in 1886. The novella quickly became a success, and it reflects kind of Victorian era's fascination with this duality of human nature and the struggle between good and evil. Um, During that time, there's a lot of books that talked about that and kind of broke that down. And it's something important to understand that we are all separated between good and evil. We all have good tendencies, but we all sometimes get angry, sad, jealous, and that kind of raises this evil part of us. Maybe evil is a strong word, but this like negative side of us. It's also a time of a lot of scientific developments, rapid scientific advancements, and also psychological theories were being advanced. And that's part of the reason why the story talked on these different potions and these different theories regarding mental health. So, again, in relation to drug addiction, this is a metaphor for addiction. So, the potion in the novel can be seen as like this drug addiction metaphor. And in the beginning, you're able to control this use. You're able to control your use of these different drugs, but eventually they kind of take over. You can't control it. It becomes this addiction, um, which often happens in the form of prescription drugs. That's a lot of people get addicted through that pathway, but some people it's through illicit drugs as well. And then there's like this loss of control, you know. Dr. Jekyll becomes increasingly dependent on the potion to transform into Hyde, and it mirrors the way addiction takes over your life. You just lose control, and it causes destructive behavior. Mr. Hyde, while the influence of the potion was committing horrible acts, harmful acts, irrational behavior. It was, um, and this kind of helps you maybe understand criminals a little better. A lot of criminals do have, substance use issues, and it kind of helps you understand that their mind is not operating properly. Um, and and again, in terms of the tragic ending with Jekyll's inability to stop becoming Hyde, he basically ends up being Hyde. So he transformed into Hyde. So in the beginning, he was taking the potion to transform into Hyde, and then at the end of the book, he just stuck as Hyde. So that's basically this like metaphor for what happens in drug addiction. You take a drug, it makes you this like zombie kind of person, whatever. But after using it for a while, you become that person. You become that evil person. Um, so once again, for me, this was quite a eye-opening book, quite insightful book. It made me kind of understand better how people that are addicted to drugs feel, and also the progression from being a non-addicted person to be an addicted person. Alcoholics, similarly, that's a drug, um, and it's sad, but we have to have empathy, we have to have understanding, and this book definitely helped me with that. Would love to hear what you think about this book. If you read it, if you haven't read it, read it. It's pretty short read, pretty easy read as well. A very kind of simple language. And yeah, peace.